Hi everybody, Al Bernstein here with another one of my quick hits videos, part of our boxing hangout series. And on this one, we're going to talk a little bit about Canelo Alvarez and his big win over James Kirkland, but more importantly, about what his future may bring and what he brings to the sport of boxing right now. Well, the Kirkland fight was an interesting one in which Canelo was matched against a big puncher who has some defensive liabilities, who would come forward and test him. That's what that fight was, and that's exactly what it turned out to be. Kirkland was, from the beginning, in Canelo's face, did land some good punches. What he didn't bring into this fight was the work of his trainer, Ann Wolfe, who we see there with Kirkland. She didn't train Kirkland for this fight, and much was made of the fact that he is undefeated in all his fights with Ann Wolfe, and without her has struggled. When the fight began, Canelo was able to utilize his uppercut as well as we've ever seen from him, and it's a terrific punch for him. We also saw Kirkland attacking with abandon, but the defensive liabilities I mentioned were clearly front and center. And even though Kirkland made it a very exciting fight early in this fight, it was Alvarez that kept his cool, though he was backed against the rope and often was hit with some pretty good power shots by Kirkland, was able to counterpunch effectively, and ultimately in this fight was able to create a one-punch knockout. Let's talk a little bit about what this performance means and put it in perspective. As always, people seem to look at this in a black and white way, when in reality there is plenty of gray area in here. First of all, I'm going to tell you what it wasn't. It wasn't a complete setup for Canelo Alvarez to look good against somebody. Can't be that, because James Kirkland, even though he's had stretches of inactivity and, as we mentioned, has defensive issues, is a power punching 154 pounder who has knocked out good 154 pounders before. So it wasn't as if there was no threat from James Kirkland. But what this fight did demonstrate is, again, that Canelo Alvarez, when someone is not boxing him, when they are not a master boxer, like Erislandy Lara or Floyd Mayweather, to whom he lost, and the Erislandy Lara fight was a very close fight that some people think Canelo may have lost. When he faces a fighter who is engaging him on some level, he is very effective and very exciting to watch. He is still a young man in his mid-20s, willing to fight everybody. Fought Mayweather probably before he was ready. He didn't have any compunction about taking on Lara, which was a nightmare matchup for him. Was willing to fight Paul Williams, and was going to fight Paul Williams, who nobody wanted to fight. And then Paul Williams had that tragic accident in which he was paralyzed. So Canelo, willing to fight everybody, wants to make action fights. I find that very hard to argue with, all right? And toward that end, given that mindset of his, it would appear, and I hope it's true, that if Miguel Cotto wins his fight against Daniel Gale in June, that later this year there would be a fight between Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez. It seems to me the appropriate fight. It is certainly a marquee fight. It's a fight in which both fighters should be able to do very well financially, and it's the fight that boxing fans, I think, would like to see. It's a very good style matchup because Cotto will, in fact, come to Alvarez, and even though Miguel Cotto is a skilled fighter, he's not by nature a mover or a boxer puncher. And especially now with Freddie Roach in his corner, they seem to have adopted an even more aggressive style, or gotten back to an aggressive style for Miguel Cotto. So I, for one, would love to see that match. Canelo talks about being willing to engage Gennady Golovkin. If that fight were to happen, I believe it needs to happen down the road a little bit. Canelo hasn't even moved up to middleweight yet. He is still kind of hovering in between that 154 and 160 pound range. This fight against Kirkland was fought at 155. So I'm still a unabashed admirer of Canelo Alvarez because I like what he does. He knows how to fight when you're in front of him. He throws lots of combinations. pretty powerful, seems to have a pretty good chin, and I believe he will make for more exciting fights as he continues on in his career. And as I said, he's still a young man, even though he's already like a 7-year veteran of the sport. Would be good for the sport of boxing if they can make the Canelo Alvarez Miguel Cotto fight. And I think most people are very, very optimistic about that fight being made. So I say bravo to Canelo for his performance. No, it wasn't against the perfect fighter. James Kirkland has some deficiencies, but no, it wasn't against someone that was an easy opponent. So Canelo moves forward. Cotto maybe wins in June, and hopefully we see that match.